Thank you for being here today. I hope this story gives you a quiet and meaningful moment to relax. Before we begin, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share it with someone who enjoys emotional science fiction. Now, let's travel to Veyra, a starving colony where even kindness feels dangerous, and one man from Earth must prove that help does not have to come with a chain. The starving colony that thought human kindness was another chain on the dry border world of Vera. Water had a sound people feared. It was not the soft sound of a river or rain. No one in the colony had heard either one in years. Water came from locked tanks, metal valves, and company trucks with armed guards standing beside them. When a valve opened, people lowered their eyes. The sound meant someone had signed something. Nathan Cole heard that sound before he saw the colony. He stood beside a battered earth relief crawler as it rolled down the cracked approach road. One hand braced against the door frame, and the other held the manifest for food, medicine, water filters, and drought seed. Nathan was 42, broad-shouldered, quiet, and tired in the steady way of men who had worked too many disaster zones. He had come to Vera as the field lead for a small earth relief team, because an old transport lane had reopened and a forgotten colony had finally appeared on a humanitarian map. The report had called Vera food insecure. That phrase died the moment Nathan saw the children. They stood behind a fence made from pipe scrap and mining cable. Their faces were narrow. Their eyes were too large for their skulls, dark and reflective under the pale skin of their species. Their hands had 3 long fingers and a thumb, all wrapped around the fence as if hunger itself had taught them to hold on. Most had silver-gray hair cut close to the scalp to save water. A few had the faint blue skin markings of Vera's people, but malnutrition had faded the color until it looked like old bruising. No one ran toward the relief crawler. That was the first thing Nathan noticed. In other hungry settlements, children came first. They smelled grain, salt, sugar, and medical. Broth through sealed crates, then forgot every warning their parents had given them. But in Veyra, children only watched. A woman stepped out from the gatehouse before the crawler stopped. She was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin, pale eyes, and a line of white scar tissue crossing one cheek. Her dark coat was patched at the elbows, and a ring of keys hung from her belt, not as decoration, but as a burden. Nathan knew her from the briefing. Mira was the ration council lead. She was the person who decided who ate and who waited. She did not greet him. She looked past him at the crates. "Where's the payment ledger?" she asked. Nathan stepped down into the dust. "There is no payment ledger." Myra's face did not change. "There is always a ledger. Not on this shipment. Then it is hidden." Nathan took the hard copy manifest from his pocket and held it out with both hands. He did not step closer. "Food, fever medicine, water membrane kits, hand tools, drought seed, and 4 portable purifiers," he said. "The cargo can be inspected by your council before anyone opens it." Mira did not take the paper. "And after we inspect it, your people decide how it is distributed." A faint sound moved through the watching crowd. It was not hope. Nathan had heard hope before. This was the sound of people hearing a trick and trying to locate the trap. Near the gate, a child coughed so hard her knees bent. Her mother pulled her upright and covered her mouth with one hand. The girl had pale gold eyes and hair like ash. She stared at the sealed food crates the way a drowning person might stare at a locked boat. Mira saw Nathan notice. "Do not look at her like that," Mira said. "Like what?" "Like you have already found the first face for your report." Nathan folded the manifest once and held it down at his side. "I did not come for a report. That is what the last company said when they came with medicine." Behind Mira, an old man spat into the dust. It was not a strong gesture, only an old memory returning through a weak body. Nathan looked at the colony again. The water towers were company-built, tall and black against the yellow sky. The irrigation channels beyond the fence were dry, and a dead field stretched toward the mining ridge, where old extraction towers still stood. Vera had not been poor by accident. Someone had turned survival into a locked room, then sold the key back 1 cup at a time. Nathan nodded once. "Then inspect everything first." Mira studied him. "You will wait outside the gate." "Yes." "For how long?" "Until you decide. And if we refuse?" Then we leave the cargo here and pull our team back far enough that your council can move it without us. For the first time, her eyes narrowed with something other than suspicion. That would be foolish. Maybe someone could steal it. Then you should choose guards you trust. You are not asking to choose them. No. Mira looked at the relief crawler. She looked at the hungry crowd. Then she looked at the child who was coughing again, softer now, because she had no strength left for a hard cough. Open one crate, Mira said. Only one. Nathan turned to his crew and gave the order. No one cheered when the crate opened. The first smell of grain broth drifted into the air, warm and plain. A small boy began to cry without making a sound. His mother covered his eyes, as if even seeing food might cost them something. Mira stepped forward, cut the inner seal herself, and removed the first packet. What do you want for this? She asked. Nathan answered quietly. For her to eat it slowly. Mira did not move for a moment. Then she handed the packet to the mother of the coughing girl. The mother did not open it. Myra's jaw tightened. Feed Lira. The girl, Lyra, took the broth packet in both hands. She looked at Nathan, terrified of him, terrified of the food, and terrified of wanting it too much. Nathan lowered himself to one knee so he would not tower over her. Slow, he said. Small sips. Lyra's mother tore the seal. That was how the first earth ration entered Veyra. Not with gratitude, not with trust, with fear trembling in a child's hands. Nathan had seen enough to know that fear was not his enemy. Hunger was not his enemy either. The enemy was whatever had taught these people that receiving help was the first step toward losing themselves. By dusk, the council had inspected the cargo. Mira kept Nathan's team outside the main storage yard, but she allowed the food to be moved under Veyran guard. She made her own priority list. Children first, then fever cases, elders, nursing mothers, and labor crews. Nathan agreed without correction. One of his aides, Rosa Malik, leaned close while Myra's people carried the crates away. She is treating us like thieves, Rosa said. Nathan watched Mira count packets with hands that did not shake until no one was looking. No, she is treating us like everyone who came before us. That is not fair. Fair is not the first thing hungry people need. Rosa fell silent. The first feeding began in the old assembly shed. Nathan stayed near the rear wall, not at the serving line. Mira noticed. She noticed everything. You do not want them to see who gave it, she asked. They know. Then why stand back? Because if I stand at the pot, hunger makes me important. It is dangerous. Mira looked away, but not before he saw the answer disturb her. The meal was simple, a mineral broth mixed with grain paste and powdered greens. For people who had eaten half rations for months, it was almost too much. Lyra swallowed too quickly and began to choke. Her mother cried out. Nathan moved before the guards could stop him. He knelt behind the child, supported her chest, and guided her breathing with a calm voice. Small breath. Again. Good. Do not fight it. Let the cough work. Lyra coughed, gasped, and vomited a little onto the floor. Then she breathed. Her mother grabbed her, weeping. Nathan stood and backed away. Mira moved toward him, conflict written across her face. You could have used that, she said. Used what? Her. The child. You could have made them watch you save her. Nathan looked toward Lyra, now curled against her mother, still clutching the empty broth packet. She is not a banner. Mira had no answer for that. The next morning, Nathan asked to see the central water plant. Mira refused. Then the old pumps failed twice before noon, and the infirmary sent word that fever cases were rising. By midday, Mira brought him to the plant with 6 guards and Tovin Rel, the colony's only remaining technician. Tovin was young, narrow-faced, and nervous. His blue markings were brighter than most, not from health, but from mineral exposure under the skin. The way people stepped aside from him told Nathan there was history. The water plant was a monument to deliberate neglect. The machines were good enough to keep Vera alive, but not free. Filters had been replaced with inferior membranes. Control panels were locked behind proprietary codes. Manual valves had been welded into positions that limited output. Nathan crouched beside a main flow regulator. This was not a breakdown. Myra's voice sharpened, meaning someone wanted it to function poorly. Tovin stared at the floor. Nathan looked at him. You have seen this before. Tovin swallowed. I was an assistant when Voss still ran the plant. The guard shifted. Myra's expression hardened. You said you cleaned storage tanks. I did, Tovin said. And sometimes I carried tools. I did not know what the locks were for. Did not know, or did not ask. Tovin flinched. Nathan stepped between them without raising his voice. Can he read the old maintenance marks? Mira glared at him. Why do you care? Because if I repair this alone, you remain dependent on the next outsider who understands it. If he helps, and if 2 others watch, you can repair it after I leave. The word leave landed oddly in the room. Mira looked at Tovin, then at the welded valve, then at the guards who wanted someone to blame. You will teach him everything you touch, she told Nathan. Yes, and the final access key stays with me. It should. Nathan spent the afternoon under the plant housing with Tovin and 2 Veyra mechanics. He explained only what mattered. Which membrane caught metal dust, which valve controlled pressure, which bypass could be opened by hand if the panel failed. He avoided jargon unless he could tie it to use. The plant groaned, coughed, and by evening sent a stronger stream into the colony's lower tanks. Tovin opened the last valve himself. Water rang against metal. The workers outside froze. Mira held the access key Nathan had placed in her palm. She looked at it as if it might bite her. You are not keeping a copy? She asked. No, that is foolish again. Maybe. You say that often. I've been called worse. For 3 days, Vera ate better. Not well. Better. Children stopped fainting in the lanes. The infirmary stretched its medicine. The water plant still struggled, but it no longer sounded like a dying animal. Then the rumors began. They arrived through old colony receivers, scratched hand terminals, and voices in the ration line. Earth relief teams had taken other worlds. Earth fed first and demanded territory later. Earth never brought food without a flag hidden inside. A young man named Yerigvan led the shouting outside the storage yard. He was lean, angry, and hungry enough to make anger feel like strength. Ask him when the bill comes, Yerik yelled. Ask him which of our wells Earth wants. Ask him how many of our children will wear Earth badges after they finish eating Earth food. Nathan stood behind the gate with his hands open. Rosa whispered, we should suspend distribution until they stop threatening us. No, Nathan said. They threw a bowl to Ken. I saw. And you want to feed them? I want the children fed. Yerik heard him and laughed bitterly. There. Listen. He talks about children because that always works. Mira came out of the yard with 2 guards. Enough. Yerik turned on her. You let him put his hands on the plant. You let his food into our homes. How much does he own now, Mira? Myra's face tightened. She did not look at Nathan. That hurt more than he expected. Nathan stepped forward. No one has signed anything. Yerik spat near his boots. That means you are waiting. Nathan could have shown documents. He had the Veyran autonomy file in 3 formats. He had Earth authorization stating that all relief materials were unconditional. But he looked at the crowd and saw people who had been conquered by paper before. More paper would not save them. So he said, you do not have to trust me to receive food. That quieted them more than shouting would have. Yerik frowned. What? Trust is yours. Food is not a reward for giving it to me. The words moved through the crowd slowly. Mira finally looked at Nathan. She did not smile, but something in her posture changed, half an inch toward him and away from the old fear. That night, the Voss combine returned. Their water trucks rolled in under floodlights, clean and white against the rust-colored road. The company logo still marked each tank, a black ring around a silver drop. Armed contractors stood on the running boards. At their center came Director Veyra Koss, wearing a dustless gray coat and the patient smile of a man who had never had to ask for water. He stopped outside the gate and spoke through an amplifier. Citizens of Veyra, the Combine regrets the unlawful interference now endangering your colony. Under the original extraction and survival support agreement, we are prepared to restore emergency water delivery. Mira stood at the gate with Nathan, Tovin, and half the council. What price? She called. Koss looked almost wounded. Director Sin, survival is not a price. Nathan felt Mira stiffen. Koss lifted a slim tablet. a temporary renewal. 12 years of managed labor contribution, mineral access, and water security oversight. Very reasonable, considering the instability caused by foreign agents. Rosa muttered, "He means us." Nathan watched the crowd behind the fence. They hated the trucks. They feared them. They wanted them. A woman pushed forward with Lyra in her arms. Sovereign looked smaller than before, as if each hour of her child's fever had taken weight from her body. "Mira," she said not loudly. "She needs clean water." Mira closed her eyes for 1 second. Ka saw it. No mother should suffer because leaders are proud. Nathan turned toward Mira. "If you sign, it will not be temporary." "You think I do not know that?" "No." "Then do not speak to me as if freedom is a cup I can pour in her mouth." The words struck him silent. She was right. Hunger made every clean principle heavier. "I am not judging you," Nathan said. Mira searched his face, expecting the hidden claim, the moral trap. "You are not. If you sign to keep them alive, that is not betrayal. That is the cruelty of the choice he built for you." For the first time, Mira looked as if she might break. Then the alarm sounded. From the water plant. The central filter failed at 7:40 in the evening, local time, just as the first band of toxic dust touched the eastern ridge. The plant's warning lights turned amber, then red. Metal contamination spiked through the system. Air shelters needed clean water to run the old humidity filters. The infirmary needed clean water for fever dilution. The colony needed water before the storm sealed them inside. Within minutes, another rumor spread. Earth's replacement membranes had killed the plant. Jarek's group stormed the gate. Someone threw a stone that split Ken's eyebrow. Earth crew members reached for shock batons, but Nathan barked the order before anyone raised a weapon. "Hands down. They will hurt us," Rosa said. Then we stepped back. Mira pushed through the crowd, but panic swallowed her voice. Casa's amplifier rose above everything. "Citizens of Vera, the combine trucks are ready. Your council must decide before storm lockdown. We cannot distribute water while foreign personnel remain in the plant." Veyra pointed at Nathan. "Get him out." Others joined. "Out, out, out." Mira stood between Nathan and the crowd. Her face was ashen. "I need time," she said. Ka smiled. "The storm will not grant time." Nathan looked past the gate toward the water plant. In the chaos, Tovin had disappeared. The old plant access notes were still in Nathan's field pack. One line from the plant map returned to him. A deep line, sealed under extraction Sector 3. A pre-company water line. Independent. Dangerous. Maybe still alive. Nathan turned to Mira. "There is another source." She stared at him. "Where?" "Old deep line. Beyond the storm wall. That sector is poisoned." "Yes." "The pumps were sealed. Then someone did not want you using them." Mira glanced at the trucks, at Sava and Lyra, and at the crowd calling for Nathan's removal. "If you say this now, they will think you invented it." "I know. If you stay, there will be violence." "I know that too." She swallowed. "What are you asking me to do?" "Keep them from signing as long as you can. But if you cannot, save them. I will not condemn you." Her eyes flashed with anger and pain. "Do not make yourself kind at me right now. I am trying not to make this about me." That was the last thing he said to her before he left by the side road. To the crowd, it looked like Nathan Cole had been driven out of Veyra. He ordered most of his team back to the relief crawler and told Rosa to keep medicine at the infirmary door until the last possible second. Then he took 2 filter packs, a tool roll, a cutter, and the old plant map. He walked into the dust beyond the outer fence. Tovin caught up with him near the abandoned conveyor towers. "You need a guide," Tovin said. Nathan turned. "You do not owe me this." "I know. Your people may call you a traitor. They already have names for me." Tovin tightened the straps on his breathing mask. "Carvas used me to keep the plant stupid. I did not know enough to stop it. Maybe I know enough now." Nathan nodded. Then we moved fast. The storm swallowed them before they reached extraction Sector 3. Dust on Veyra was not like sand. It was fine mineral ash, full of metal particles that clung to skin and clogged filters. It turned the world into a yellow blur. Old towers appeared and vanished like bones. Nathan followed the map by hand lamp and compass marks, while Tovin read faded Veyra maintenance symbols on half-buried service posts. Twice, they had to dig through drifted ash. Once, they hid as a company drone passed overhead, its lights sweeping the ground for heat signatures. "You were right," Tovin said. "They are watching the line. Can they stop us remotely? Not if the manual valve opens. And if it does not." Tovin looked into the storm. "Then we die tired." Nathan almost smiled. "I have heard worse plans." They found the deep line beneath a collapsed pump shelter. The entry hatch was welded shut and marked with a Carvas seal. Nathan cut through the outer lock, while Tovin fed him the old pressure sequence. The hatch opened into stale heat. Inside, the pump chamber was narrow and dark. Mineral buildup crusted the walls. A manual wheel stood at the far end, chained to a dead actuator. The company had not destroyed the line. It had done something colder. It had left the water there, unreachable. Nathan's mask alarm chirped. Tovin looked at the gauge. "Your filter is clogging. So is yours. Mine still has time." "Good. Then you keep reading." They worked by hand. Nathan cut the chain. Tovin reset the pressure catches. The first turn of the wheel did nothing. The second made the pipe groan. The third shook dust from the ceiling. Then a company voice came through a wall speaker, cracked but clear. The speaker ordered them to leave the chamber because their access was unauthorized. Tovin froze. "They know." A heavy impact struck the outer hatch. "Contractors." Nathan braced his shoulder against the wheel. "How many turns?" "8 more." "Then count." The hatch rang again. Tovin grabbed the wheel with him. Together they forced it another quarter turn, then another. The old mechanism screamed. Nathan's mask alarm became a steady tone. His breath grew hot and thin. Tovin reached for his own filter. "Take mine." "No, you will collapse." "You can still read the panel." "I can read it without breathing." Nathan looked at him. "You have to walk out with the proof." Tovin stared. "What proof?" Nathan pointed to the side console, where old data cells blinked under cracked glass. "If this line comes online, the system will show why it was sealed. Pull the core when it lights." The contractors hit the hatch again. Metal bent inward. "4," Tovin said. Nathan pushed harder. 5. Tovin was crying now, not loudly, just leaking fear and dust through the edges of his mask. "They hated me for not knowing enough," Tovin said. Nathan pushed the wheel again. His arm shook. "Then know enough today." 6. The hatch split. 7. A gloved hand reached through with a cutter. Nathan placed himself between the breach and Tovin. "Core." Tovin ripped the data core free as the panel came alive. 8. The wheel locked open. Somewhere deep under Vera, ancient water moved. The pipe shuddered like a living thing. Pressure surged through the line. The floor trembled. Nathan felt the vibration in his bones, then felt his knees give way. Tovin caught him badly, almost falling under his weight. "Get out," Nathan said. "Not without you. Children cannot drink apologies." Tovin made a sound like anger. "Then do not become one." He dragged Nathan toward the rear maintenance crawl, just as the outer hatch blew open. Back in the colony, Mira stood over the renewal contract with a stylus in her hand. The storm had sealed the sky. The assembly hall shook in the wind. Koss's water trucks waited beyond the gate, their tanks full, their guards dry. Lyra lay on a cot near the front, because Sava had refused to let the council forget what was at stake. Koss's voice was gentle. "Director Sen, I respect your devotion, but leadership is not pride. Sign, and the first water goes to the children." Mira looked at Lyra. The child's lips were cracked. Her mother held a cup that had nothing in it. Yerrick stood near the doors, no longer shouting. Even he looked afraid of what he had helped unleash. Mira lowered the stylus. A low boom moved through the floor. At first, everyone thought the storm had struck the wall. Then the dry central basin at the heart of the assembly yard rattled. Pipes hammered under the floor. Dust jumped in little rings. Someone screamed. Water burst from the old basin spout. Not a trickle, not a ration pulse. A hard, clear stream crashed into the basin and splashed onto the stone. No one moved. Water in Veyra always had a guard beside it. This water had none. Koss recovered first. "Do not touch that." The deep line remains combined property under the extraction agreement. Mira stared at the basin, then at the contract, then at Lyra. She walked to the water. Koss raised his voice. Director Sen, you are about to contaminate evidence. Mira cupped both hands under the stream. Her hands trembled. For one breath, she looked like every exhausted woman who had ever been forced to choose which life mattered most. Then she drank. The hall went silent. Mira filled Sava's empty cup and carried it to Lyra. Sava wept as she helped the child sip. Koss stepped forward. This changes nothing. The line is ours. No, said Tovin Rel from the doorway. Everyone turned. Tovin staggered in with Nathan's arm over his shoulder. Both were covered in yellow dust. Nathan's breathing was shallow. His face was gray under the grime. In Tovin's free hand was the data core. Mira crossed the hall so fast the guards could not react. Nathan. He tried to stand straighter and failed. Tovin held up the core. Carvas sealed the line after falsifying contamination reports. They kept the colony on truck water while the deep source stayed clean. The plant failure tonight was triggered by an old company command. Koss's smile disappeared. A frightened technician's claim means nothing. Nathan pulled a small transmitter from his pocket and placed it in Myra's hand. The core is mirrored, but it should be your voice. Mira stared at the device. What? Your people need to hear it from you. Rosa, who had followed from the infirmary, stepped forward. Nathan, Earth Command needs this broadcast. You were accused. Let us clear it officially. Nathan's eyes stayed on Mira. If Earth speaks first, Veyra is rescued by another owner. If Mira speaks, Veyra stands. Myra's fingers closed around the transmitter. For a moment, every eye in the hall waited for her to fail. Koss expected shame. Yerrick expected anger. Sava expected a miracle because she had no strength left for anything else. Mira climbed the basin steps. Water splashed around her boots. My people, she said, and the transmitter carried her voice through the colony speakers. The storm howled outside. Inside, no one breathed loudly. I was wrong about Nathan Cole. A murmur moved through the hall. Mira did not hide from it. I was wrong because I believed every hand from outside must become a fist. I believed it because Carvas taught us with hunger, with contracts, with graves, and with water we were allowed to drink only when we bowed. Koss snapped. This is slander. Mira lifted the data core. This holds the deep line records. It shows the water was clean. It shows the seals were deliberate. It shows the failure tonight was triggered to force our signatures. Yerrick looked at Koss, then at the contract table, as if seeing both for the first time. Myra's voice grew steadier. Carvas did not save Vera. It starved Vera slowly enough to call the starvation lawful. The hall erupted. Koss ordered his guards forward. Veran workers moved first. Not with guns, but with tools, crowbars, water hooks, and ration poles. Yerrick stood in front of Mira, shame burning on his face, and raised both empty hands. No more, he said. Nathan leaned heavily on Rosa now. His vision blurred at the edges, but he saw the line hold. Not Earth crew in front. Veran's in front. Mira at the center. Tovin beside her. Sava holding Lyra near the water. Koss looked at Nathan with pure hatred. You think Earth can claim this world now? Nathan answered softly. No. Koss blinked. He had expected a threat. Nathan nodded toward Mira. That is the point. By morning, the storm had weakened. The combine trucks were still outside the gate, but their guards were disarmed and waiting under Veran watch for an intercolonial legal ship. The data core had already gone out through 3 channels. Earth Relief Command, the Border Tribunal, and a free colony network that Carvas did not control. Nathan spent the early hours in the infirmary with a breathing line and bitter mineral wash in his throat. Lyra slept 2 cots away, fever lower, one small hand wrapped around a cup of clean water as if someone might steal it. Mira came to Nathan when the sun was pale behind the dust. You should have kept the transmitter, she said. Nathan turned his head. Speaking hurt, but he managed. No, your people wanted to clear your name. They did. You did not. I wanted Vera to clear its own. Mira sat beside the cot. For the first time since he had arrived, she looked simply tired, not armed. I thought kindness was just the first page of contract, she said. I know. I thought you were patient because patient men are better predators. I know that too. Does nothing insult you? Nathan gave a faint smile. Many things. I try not to make hungry people pay for them. Mira looked down at her hands. I almost signed. You almost saved children with the only tool left on the table. Do not make it easy. I am not. I am telling the truth. She was silent for a long time. Then she said, Why did you do it after we drove you out? Nathan looked toward the window, where the first line of people had gathered around the basin. They were not rushing. They were not fighting. They were filling cups under Myra's guards, under Veyra's rules from Veyra's water. Because if I waited until you trusted me, Lyra might not have lived. Mira closed her eyes. Later that day, Nathan insisted on walking to the assembly yard. Rosa argued. The medic argued. Nathan lost both arguments and still walked, slowly, with a support brace, and Tovin on one side pretending not to hover. The whole colony had gathered. They made Nathan stop. I told you not to make this a ceremony, he murmured. Tovin looked at the crowd. I do not think they know how else to survive joy. Mira stood at the basin with the council. Behind her, workers had removed the Carvos ownership plate from the water tower. It lay on the ground, cracked in half. She addressed the crowd first. Vera will not renew the survival support agreement. Vera will not surrender labor rights for water. Vera will control its plant, its deep line, its seed stores, and its ration records through its own council. The people listened as if each sentence placed a stone under their feet. Mira turned to Nathan. Earth Relief has transferred the remaining food, medicine, membrane kits, drought seed, and routing codes to Vera management. No debt, no mineral claim, no labor condition. A rustle passed through the crowd. Even after everything, hearing the words aloud unsettled them. An old woman stepped forward. Nathan recognized her from the first day. She had spat into the dust when he arrived. Now, she lowered herself slowly to her knees. Then another person began to kneel. Nathan moved faster than the medic wanted. No, the old woman froze. Nathan stepped toward her, breathing carefully. Please stand. She looked confused. You opened the water. No, your people opened it. Tovin knew the line. Mira held the colony together. Sava kept her child alive long enough for help to matter. Yerrick stood at the end when he could have hidden. I helped. You saved us, someone said. Nathan looked across the faces. Hungry, bruised, ashamed, grateful, unsure. On Earth, he said, helping someone stand does not mean owning the ground beneath their feet. The words moved through Vera more slowly then. The first smell of grain broth, but deeper. Mira repeated them in her own language. The sound was softer, with a break in the middle that made several elders lower their heads. One by one, the people who had started to kneel stood back up. That was the moment Nathan knew they understood. Not because they thanked him, not because they forgave him, because they did not give him the one thing he had refused to take. Ownership. Before the old woman could answer, Lyra stepped forward with the slow care of a child still learning that strength had returned. Sava tried to hold her back, but Mira gave a small nod. The girl crossed the dust between the people and Nathan, carrying a cup filled halfway from the basin. On the first day, she had hidden from him behind her mother's coat. Now she stopped in front of him and held out the cup with both hands. Nathan understood at once that this was not a gift to him. It was a test of the new world they were trying to build. Is this yours? He asked her. Lyra looked back at Mira, then at the basin, then at the crowd. It is ours. Then you decide what to do with it. The child thought hard. Her small face tightened with the seriousness of someone asked to carry more history than her arms could hold. Then she drank one sip, turned, and handed the cup to the old woman who had started to kneel. The old woman drank while standing. That did more than any speech could have done. A murmur passed through the crowd, not loud, not clean, but alive. The cup moved from hand to hand. No names were written. No marks were made. No one asked who owed whom. Mira watched the cup travel. Her eyes shone, but her voice stayed steady. This is how we begin, she said. Not by pretending fear is gone. It is not gone. We will still count. We will still guard the stores. We will still argue. but we will not call every open hand a chain before we have looked at what it holds. Nathan listened without interrupting. This was the part he had wanted most and feared most. Not the thanks, but the moment when Vera started speaking in its own voice again. Tovin stepped beside him. You know they will fight about the ration rules tomorrow. Good, Nathan said. Good. If they can argue about rules instead of begging for water, the colony is alive. Tovin gave a weak laugh. Humans have strange measures for victory. We have worse ones. Mira heard that and almost smiled. Then she turned back to the people, and Nathan stepped back. He did it deliberately, one pace, then another, until the center of the yard belonged only to Veyra. Yerrick Vin came forward last. His eyes were red from dust and shame. I called you a chain, Yerrick said. Nathan nodded. You were trying to protect your people. I was wrong. Yes. Yerrick almost smiled through the pain. You could pretend I was not. I could, but then you would not trust the rest. Yerrick accepted that. He stepped back, not forgiven cheaply, but not discarded either. Tovin brought the cracked vase plate and set it beside the basin. The crowd watched as Mira placed the first drought seed on top of it. It was small, brown, almost weightless. Lyra found this in the first crate, Mira said. She asked if seeds can owe debts. A quiet laugh moved through the people, fragile and new. What did you tell her? Nathan asked. Mira held the seed out to him. I told her this one does not. Nathan did not take it at first. That belongs here. It will stay here, Mira said. This is another from the same packet. She placed it in his palm. When the first field grows, if you remember the road back, you may come see it. Not as owner. Not as creditor. Nathan closed his hand around the seed. As what? Mira looked at the water, then at the people standing around it. As the first outsider who left us with more of ourselves than he found. Nathan had no answer that would not make the moment smaller. The next morning, the Earth Relief crawler left Vera lighter than it had arrived. The food was gone. The filters were gone. The seed crates were gone. The technical manuals had been copied into the Veran language and stored in the plant, the school, and the ration hall. Nathan carried no contract, no mineral claim, and no ceremonial title. At the gate, Lyra stood with Sava, wrapped in a patched blanket. She raised one hand. Her fingers were still thin, but her eyes were brighter. Nathan raised his hand back. Mira stood beside them with the plant key on her belt. You are leaving before the tribunal ship arrives, she said. Rosa will stay as witness. You do not want to watch Carvas answer? Ido. But if I stay too long, people may start asking me what Vera should become next. Mira understood. That was why he was leaving. The crawler engine warmed. Dust curled around the tires. Mira looked at him one last time. Nathan Cole, when our children ask what made humans different, what should we tell them? Nathan considered the question. He could have said compassion, courage, stubbornness. All were true, but none were enough. Tell them humans are not always good, he said. We fail too. We get proud. We make mistakes. But some of us believe help is not real help unless the person receiving it remains free. Mira held that answer carefully, as if it were another kind of seed. The crawler rolled away from the gate. Behind it, Vera did not look saved. Not yet. The fields were still dead. The towers were still scarred. The people were still thin. Carvas had left wounds that one open water line could not heal in a day. But the basin was full. The plant was running under Veran hands. And when the first truck from the colony moved toward the old fields carrying water, tools, and seed, no company guard stood beside it. No contract waited at the end of the row. No child had to ask whose name was hidden inside the cup. For years, Vera had believed kindness was only a softer word for ownership. Then a man from Earth came, endured their fear, accepted their anger, walked into a poisoned storm after they cast him out, and left without taking the key. That was what changed them. Not the food, not the water, not even the evidence that broke Carvas. It was the impossible shape of the gift. A gift with no chain tied to it. A gift that did not ask them to kneel. A gift that sounded, at last, like water running freely into a basin no one owned. Thank you for staying with this story until the end. Nathan Cole did not save Vera because he wanted praise. He did not ask anyone to kneel. to owe him or to call him a hero. He simply gave a broken people the one thing no contract had ever given them before, the chance to stand on their own ground. And maybe that is what makes humans different. Not that we are perfect, not that we always arrive without mistakes. But at our best, we know that helping someone rise should never mean owning the life they build afterward. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who enjoys meaningful science fiction, and subscribe to the channel for more stories about humanity, courage, and the quiet strength that can change a whole world. I would also love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think truly made Nathan different? Thank you again for listening, and I hope this story stays with you long after the final words fade.